Fescal Marharton is Falter, Good afternoon, colleagues. I hope you can hear me clearly. Welcome to this meeting of the Comhairle, which is being conducted through Microsoft Teams. Before we begin our meeting, I would like to ask Councillor MacLean to lead us in prayer. Councillor MacLean.
O Lord our God, we bless you that we can come into your presence this afternoon because of the one who is at your right hand, the one who died for us, and the one who makes intercession for us. And we bless you for the work that he does. And we ask that as we deliberate over the matters concerning the council, the communities here this afternoon, that you would be with us and lead us. For we are in need of leading. We are in need of listening to your voice, which often we do not do. Be with the convener that is over us today. We ask you would help him in the work that he's doing, and in the deliberations over this meeting today, we ask that you would help him. And be with the leader, and be with all who are in authority. We think of the chairs of each committee. We ask that you would bless them and be with them and enable them to carry out their duties correctly. We ask that you would bless them and help them. Be with the Chief Executive and all his staff. We bless you for them and for the help that they give to us in trying to do what is right. Be with Robert Emmett as he departs from us. We give thanks for his service over the past years and ask that you would be with him in his new work in Dundee. Be with himself and his wife and family as they go to new fields. We ask that you would be bless them. Remember all in our community who are suffering at this time through virus and through the effects of the virus. We think of the aged, think of those parents or grandparents or those known to us who are in homes or in their own homes through loneliness. We ask you, O Lord, that you would help them. Remember those who have been taken to hospital or to homes. We ask that you would bless them and aid their recovery. We give thanks for the new vaccines that have been made for us, and we bless you for these openings. Be with the children who have gone back to school, primary 1 to 3s this week, and all other children who have been homeschooled. We ask that you would be with our families, the families who are finding it hard at this time. Bless them, O Lord, and keep them. Be with us all, we pray thee. Help us to look to you as the great physician, the great doctor, the one who is able to help us in this great time of need. Bless us then and keep us. And we ask all for Jesus' sake. Amen.
Thank you very much, Councillor MacLean. I'll now ask Derek Mackay, Governance and Elections Manager, to read the Sideerant. Mr. Mackay.
Convener.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Emerski agus Ushajes, Colin Macmillan.
Have you on the hill?
Matthew McNeil.
I'll be on the hill.
Donald Manford.
On show.
Paul Francis Steele.
I'm sure.
In the village is Tua, Roddy Mackay.
On the hill.
Ian McLeod.
I'm sure.
Lucian Robertson.
On the hill.
Now, is Kenny Jeff Maloch. Grant Fulton.
I'm sure.
Paul Finnegan.
I'm sure.
John Mitchell.
I'm sure.
Hugh, I was trying to turn the law, Ranald Fruta.
On the show.
Angus Morrison.
On the show.
Stephen Rood, Nori MacDonald.
There you go.
Arthur McLeod.
Am I on the hill?
Cindy M. Stewart.
On the show.
John O'Hill, Keith Dodson.
I'm sure.
Ray McKenzie.
I'm sure.
Angus McCormack.
Sure.
Charlie Nicholson.
I'm sure.
Ian M. Macaulay.
I'm sure.
Neil Mackay.
I'm sure.
Gordon Murray.
Amishaw.
Lochatua, Donald F. Crichton,
Amishaw.
Johnny McKeever,
Amishaw.
Colin McLean.
And the Hill.
And third year I was niece, John Mackay, and Johnny MacLeod,
Amishaw.
Kenneth MacLeod,
Amishaw.
Kenny John MacLeod.
Amishaw.
31 members present, convener.
Thank you, Mr. Mackay. With regard to the conduct of the meeting, I'd like to give a reminder of the following points. Please ensure that your camera and microphone are off. I will call on the relevant officer to present their report. If a member or officer wishes to ask a question or raise a point, please do so using the raise your hand function on your device. I will invite each member in the queue to speak, and at that point, please switch your mic and camera on. After you have spoken, please ensure that you lower your hand and put your microphone and camera off. Your device should be positioned so that your image is clear to the other participants, and please speak clearly and concisely directly at the camera. When calling for agreement of the recommendations at each item, a no show of raised hands will be taken as an indication of the committee's approval. With regard to declarations of interest, members are reminded of the protocol. You must leave the meeting by ending the call, which will be confirmed by the moderator to the chair. And following consideration of the item, you will be invited back into the meeting by the moderator. Please ensure you are available to accept the invite to rejoin. Move on to item 1, declarations of interest, and you are invited to declare an interest in any agenda item at this point. If you become aware of an interest during the meeting, then I would ask that you declare it at that time. When declaring an interest, it would be helpful if members could indicate briefly the nature of that interest. This helps to make our decision-making open and transparent for the public. Are there any declarations of interest at this point? Councillor Colin Macmillan.
Good evening, convener. Thank you. I would have to declare an interest in the amendment put forward by the Alliance Group, in that it seems to encompass all buildings that may be currently disposed of by the Comhairle. I would have an interest in one of these buildings, so I would have to declare that interest and remove myself from the meeting at that point.
Councillor Macmillan, that might not be necessary because the Alliance Group have withdrawn all the amendments that they proposed earlier, so that that item will not be discussed at the meeting.
Oh, very well, thank you. I'll withdraw that. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2A, report of meeting of Transport and Infrastructure Committee of the 23rd of February 2021, and B, report of the meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee of the 23rd of February 2021 at 3 p.m. These reports have been synced to the iPads prior to this meeting, and I am ruling item 2A as urgent. I will now ask the Chairman of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Uishan Robertson, to move the Transportation and Infrastructure Decision Report. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Convener. I move the decision report of today's Transportation and Infrastructure Committee reference the Inter-Island Air Service Benbecula to Stornoway.
Is there a seconder for that?
I second that.
Thank you, Mr. MacLeod. Thank you for that, both. I will now ask the leader, Roddy Mackay, to present to us the 2021-22 budget as proposed by the Policy and Resources Committee meeting at 3 p.m. today. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Convener. Today's budget is the fourth of this term of the Comhairle. It's fair to say that when I told you last year that we continued to operate in a period of significant challenge, I hadn't imagined the impact that the pandemic would have on our economy and our society. However, there's been a hugely impressive response from the Council and our communities, and I want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to all our staff who have worked hard to maintain essential services during this past year. Not just in our care services, of course, but also across the islands in vital services ranging from waste collection to procurement and education. A tremendous amount of work went into supporting businesses through facilitating a range of Scottish Government funding, as well as our own local business support scheme. We also secured additional funding for the islands when we moved into Level 3 post-Christmas, and I particularly welcome the extension of rates relief for retail, hospitality and the leisure sector for the next year. Our funding increase this year means, together with the business planning that we agreed in December, that we can set a budget with a small deficit that we can confidently fund from balances. This includes my recommendation that we take advantage of the offer of funding from the Scottish Government to freeze council tax for the coming year. Despite the significant uncertainty of COVID, which has come upon us, it is satisfying that our work on the detail through the Budget Board through 2020 and the prudent use of balances over our time in the Council means that we can manage this without detriment to services. There is, of course, much uncertainty ahead. Pay awards for 2021 are not yet agreed. The IJB budget has a gap of around 800,000. We are faced with a 700,000 overspend on gritting, and we still have ongoing costs from the pandemic, which could impact on the speed with which we can deliver our business plans. And of course, we have an obligation to deliver these business plans to provide the savings we are intending. Whilst we are working with a one-year settlement from the Scottish Government, I am optimistic that the planning we have done will stand us in good stead for our budget next February also. To support this, I am therefore proposing a cautious approach to the allocation of additional funds that we will receive from the Scottish Government for COVID for the next year. We await, of course, the UK budget on the 3rd of March, which I hope will set out a longer-term strategy and enable the Scottish Government and ourselves to plan for the next phase of recovery. I have already mentioned the pressures facing the IJB, but the Council has a long tradition of supporting health and social care, and I am proposing that we increase the Cuairn's Flanch and Eilean share budget by passing on in full the additional monies in the settlement. Although it is in line with our estimates, our capital funding for next year is disappointing. Despite this, our innovative approach to funding has enabled us to progress the Lewis residential care development, with the care facility scheduled to open next spring. And we have now submitted the revised case for the £54 million Barra and Battersea Community Campus, which aims to commence on-site by the end of this year. That said, we must not lose sight of the need for investment in our core infrastructure, particularly our roads and buildings. And I welcome the Scottish Government's establishment of funding for bridges, which will provide essential support, for example, for the Bernera Bridge project, which is now running at around £3 million. Also, our communities like Bernera and places like the Balshire Uist Causeway, these bridges and causeways are just as much lifeline infrastructure as ferries are elsewhere, and we will continue to look to get additional financial support from Scottish Government. This budget, I believe, represents a reasonable and responsible continuation of the journey we started in 2018, and I recommend that we agree it, commit to its early implementation, and continue to work together and take advantage of all opportunities as the recovery map becomes clearer in the months ahead. I am very pleased that the additional recommendations reflecting members' wishes were accepted at the service committees and are now incorporated in the budget going forward. Therefore, I commend the budget to you for your approval. Thank you.
Sorry, my microphone was off. Councillor MacLeod, are you seconding?
Yes, I second that recommendation.
Thank you for that. Are there any amendments to that proposal? Councillor Manford first, then Councillor Murray, and then Councillor Ray McKenzie. Councillor Manford, We'll go into formal debate now, and the motion is in the name of the Council Leader, Councillor Roddy Mackay, seconded by Councillor Alistair MacLeod, and the Councillor Manford is proposing a recommendation, seconded by Councillor John A. McKeever, and we move into formal debate on that basis. So, Councillor Roddy Mackay, Council Leader. Do you want to get Don Manford to read out something? Do you want to read your amendment out, Councillor Manford, because it has been circulated, I believe, to all members, but it would be helpful if you wish to read it out.
Thank you very much, Convener. Yeah, happy to do so. I was waiting for your invite. The SNP Scottish Government is providing special funding for the replacement of Bernera Bridge, and it is therefore proposed that any of the 1.068 million of funding previously allocated by the Comhairle for replacing the Bernera Bridge, but if it's no longer required due to the special funding, be reallocated to surface dressing of roads, with this being allocated on a 60-40 split. Lewis and Harris 60, Houston Barra 40. Thank you. That's my amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Manford. And I'll ask Councillor John A. McKeever if you're happy to second that.
Happy to second, yes.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask the Council Leader, are you prepared to accept that amendment, Councillor Mackay?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you for that. Then we go straight into formal debate, and first to speak will be Councillor Roddy Mackay, followed by Councillor Manford, and seconded by Councillor Alistair MacLeod and Councillor John A. McKeever. And we will let you know when your time is up. So, Councillor Roddy Mackay, Council Leader.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I don't intend to spend much time on this. I think we reflected particular wishes of the proposer in the recommendation that came through TNI. The recommendation, if I can just remind you, said that once we have details of any potential contribution to the Bernera Bridge from recently announced government funds, we allocate any surplus balances to roads, bridges and causeways. I can't really see any difficulty in that. I do see difficulty in what Councillor Manford is proposing, because we do not know what the potential contribution is from the Scottish Government. We've only got a global sum announced, so we do not know how much we're getting. Also, the amount of funding we've set aside actually is less than what the bridge is coming out at, significantly less as the costs grow. So I think that what we should do is wait till we find out what the contribution is. If there's any surplus, we're quite happy to agree and allocate the balances to roads, bridges and causeways, and that was agreed today, and that is part of our budget. So I don't really see what this adds at all.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Can I turn to Councillor Manford?
Thank you very much, Convener. I'm trying to be brief also. First, I want to take this opportunity to echo the compliments of yourself, the Council Leader, to the people of the Western Isles and the staff of the Council and NHS for the huge work they've done over this difficult time in the COVID pandemic. This has been a good day for democracy. The amendments have focused minds, and that is commendable, as was the tone of the debate all through the day, almost without exception. The amendment is very clear. It doesn't argue for anything other than should there be additional funds not required. It is a principal point, and if all it's done is to focus minds, then it's done that. But the principal point still remains. There are intentions which I very much welcome, to bring forward reports. It's much easier often to bring forward reports if areas of finance are identified than if they aren't. I urge you to support the amendment.
Thank you for that, Councillor Manford. I'll now turn to Councillor MacLeod in terms of supporting the Council Leader.
Thank you, conveners. I don't really have much more to add. We always welcome any additional funding from Scottish Government, however small or large it is. It always helps our economy and our communities. I think the amendment today that was passed at TNI is very sensible and very logical. We don't know how much we're going to get, and once the Comhairle has details of any potential contribution to Bernard Bridge from government, from Scottish Government, any surplus balances be allocated to roads, bridges and causeways. I think that's very clear, very black and white, and I think it's a very sensible, logical way to go ahead with this amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor MacLeod. I now turn to Councillor John A. McKeever in support of Councillor Manford. Councillor McKeever.
Thank you. I've not a lot to add to what Councillor Manford has already said. I think if we look at the fact that ever since I became a councillor back in 2007, year on year we have cut the budgets to our surface dressing, and despite the valiant efforts of the chairs throughout the years, like Donald Manford and John Mackay, and even to the present day with Euston Robertson, despite all their efforts, the cuts have still gone on. This is an opportunity to put stuff back if there is anything left from the settlement when the Bernard Bridge has finally been replaced. I think it's an opportunity to put the stuff back into the roads budget. I think we shouldn't be looking at a gift horse in the mouth, and that it's, as the old adage says, a stitch in time saves nine, and it's better to be proactive rather than reactive. Therefore, well, if we continually ignore the state of the roads throughout our islands, we'll be in a bad way, and the day will come when it will be only a horse that will be able to use them. Thank you, and I urge you to support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor McKeever. I now open it up to debate for any member who wishes to contribute. Please do so by raising your hand. Councillor Callum Macmillan.
Thank you, convener. We are here tonight as policymakers. That is our principal function. And what I would recommend to us all is that we try and make policy tonight that is proactive and sets out the benefit to our constituents and the community. I would take an example, the library van, the mobile van service, or the mobile library service, more to the point. There was a policy to disband that service, which served the rural communities and the areas from where Stornoway is remote. And it took a number of attempts to try and change the policy. And I would say that the chairman of Communities and Housing is now very much appreciative and was very fulsome in his welcome of these library vans. And it took a change in policy to make that happen. And it means that these vans are on the road. And when we look at setting the policy, what we're doing is putting a signpost in. It is the way forward. It is not that we are recommending a committee report or anything else. We are setting it out as to what will happen. And we are giving then the opportunity to the officers to deliver on that policy statement that we have agreed. And that is what happened with the mobile library service. And I think tonight, for the Bernard Bridge funding that comes back to the Comhairle, it's Comhairle money that was allocated. And in the event that the Scottish Government funds the bridge, we have that amount of money set aside so that this summer, hopefully, we can start putting top dressing on the roads. And as you said yourself, Convener, what we have to do is make these roads waterproof and keep the rain off and from getting into the substructure of the roads. That's what damages the roads, the lack of a capping and the lack of a finish. And that is what the top dressing does. It prevents wear, damage and potholes from occurring. And if we can do that, as Janae said, it's a stitch in time, otherwise we'll be back where pack horses and boats are the only thing that works. So I would commend everyone and all the councillors to vote with this amendment and to try and get that into policy. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Councillor McMillan, and you just managed to get it in within 3 minutes. Can I ask Councillor Mackenzie if you're wanting to speak to this, Councillor Ray Mackenzie? See your hand. Or is it for?
Sorry, no, it was up from the original amendment. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks. And anybody else wish to speak on this particular item? Councillor Manford, have you got your hand up again? I mean, you've already spoken in the debate, and you'll get a chance to sum up towards the end. So I'm assuming your hand is left up.
I beg your pardon. I thought it had been removed. It couldn't.
That's quite all right. Councillor Lucian Robertson.
Thank you, Convener. I'm sure all of us have our different priorities when it comes to spending any surplus monies. And clearly at the moment there is quite a lot of pressure on us in terms of work on causeways. So I think what was agreed this morning is the best way forward, because it does give us the option to prioritise what work we do. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Any other hands going up? Anybody else want to comment or contribute? Not seeing any further hands. So in that case, I'll ask Councillor Manford to sum up, followed by the Council Leader, Councillor Roddy Mackay. Councillor Manford.
Thank you. Yeah. We've discussed the pros and cons of this very well. I think it's very clear what the opinion of members are. That's become, as I've said already, clear throughout the day. I couldn't put it better than Councillor Callum Macmillan. This is our day for establishing a policy, the policy of the members, and we do it through the finances. There it is in front of us. I'm happy we go to the vote.
Thank you very much, Councillor Manford. Turn to Councillor Roddy Mackay, the Council Leader, to sum up.
Just a comment really about this is our day. It's really not. I mean, for the last 6 months, I've been inviting different amendments and different suggestions and different input, and we haven't really had it. So, that happens throughout the year, and I hope that we're in a council that encourages contributions. But anyway, it is beyond my comprehension why Mr. Manford or Mr. Macmillan would not agree with the recommendation that is in front of us. It gives us more flexibility. It allows us to spend on roads. It gives us a choice to spend on causeways, which we're hearing issues about. I've just heard some issues about the Balshire one even this week. So it is a decision. It is a policy. We're saying quite clearly, once we know what's happening with the government funds, we allocate any surplus balances to roads, bridges and causeways. I really cannot see why anybody would disagree with that particular priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mackay. Are you happy to have the vote by roll call? I'm not seeing any hands go up, so I will assume in the absence of hands going up that a roll call vote is acceptable, and I'll ask Derek Mackay to lead us through that. Sorry, and just to clarify again, that the motion is in the name of Councillor Roddy Mackay, seconded by Councillor Alistair MacLeod, and the amendment is in the name of Councillor Donald Manford, seconded by Councillor Johnny McKeever. Mr Mackay.
Convener.
Motion.
Leader.
Motion.
Colin.
Amendment.
Ian Archie McNeil.
Motion.
Donald Manford.
Amendment.
Paul. Francis Steele.
Motion.
Roddy Mackay.
Motion.
Ian M. MacLeod.
Motion.
Lucian Robertson.
Motion.
Grant Fulton.
Amendment.
Paul Finnegan.
Motion.
John G. Mitchell.
Amendment.
Ronald Fraser.
Motion.
Angus Morrison.
Motion.
Norrie MacDonald.
Motion.
Alistair MacLeod.
Motion.
Finlay M. Stewart.
Motion.
Keith Dodson.
Motion.
Ray Mackenzie.
Councillor Ray Mackenzie.
Amendment.
Thank you.
Angus McCormack.
Motion.
Charlie Nicholson.
Motion.
Ian M. Macaulay.
Motion.
Neil Mackay.
Motion.
Gordon Murray.
Amendment.
Donald F. Crichton.
Motion.
Johnny McKeever.
Amendment.
Colin McLean.
Motion.
John Mackay.
Motion.
John Norman MacLeod.
Motion.
Kenneth MacLeod.
Amendment.
Kenny John MacLeod.
Motion.
That's 23 for the motion, 8 for the amendment.
That's 23 for the motion and 8 for the amendment. So the motion is carried. We move on to the next amendment that is proposed by Councillor Ray Mackenzie and seconded by Councillor John Mitchell. And again, the motion is in the name of the council leader, Roddy Mackay, and seconded by Councillor Alistair MacLeod. So again, I turn to the council leader to speak. Well, before we do that, I'd ask Councillor Ray Mackenzie, as the proposer of the motion, to read out the motion before I invite the council leader to speak to this item. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thanks, Convener. I wish to move that in light of the projected overspend in the current year to allocate an additional 250,000 from balances to supplement the winter maintenance budget for 2021-22, and that the ongoing review consider the appropriate budget provision for future years.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. And Councillor Mitchell, are you happy to second that?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Can I turn to Councillor Mackay and ask him if he's prepared to accept that amendment?
No, I'm quite happy with the motion that's in the papers in front of us.
Okay, thanks for that. We move then into formal debate again, and the order will be the same. Councillor Mackay, followed by Councillor Ray Mackenzie, and seconded by Councillor Alistair MacLeod for the motion, and Councillor John Mitchell for the amendment. So, Councillor Leader.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just feel that, again, if we look back to the additional recommendation in TNI, we're basically saying something that's perfectly reasonable. When the review of this year's spend on winter maintenance and the current policy is completed, the TNI committee to agree budget provision going forward. Now, I just don't see any merit or any reason for taking this particular proposal from Councillor Mackenzie. He's suggesting we allocate an additional 250,000 from balances when we don't even know if we're going to need it. The point about the winter budget is that you should understand is that we have a policy and we grit to the policy. So that is why today I reported a potential overspend of 700,000. That's because that if the policy dictates that we grit to it, and we do put money in anyway. So putting money in before we actually need it, there's no sense to it whatsoever. So I think what we do is we get the feedback from this year. We agree. I know members discussed having a review of the policy during the current year. We do that, and then we see what our budget is going forward. So I just think it's a bit premature to be allocating anything from our balances, our precious balances, at the minute until such time as we've concluded a study of the year. That's all. Again, it's just the order of events, and it just makes more sense to go with what the TNI wording is, which is that when the review of this year's spend on winter maintenance and the current policy is complete, policy review is complete, the TNI committee will then decide budget provision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Councillor Mackenzie for the amendment.
Thank you. Thank you, Convener. Yeah, well, we're operating under very difficult circumstances this year, unique circumstances. And I believe in most of the budget, with some exceptions, which will be obvious. I'm also glad that, because of the amendments that we put forward last week, that a lot of them have been taken, but I believe they've been considerably weakened by asking for reports or promises which may or may not happen. So that's why we continued, or I have continued on this one anyway. I think it's an obvious problem island-wide, which may vary from year to year, but it's always with us. This year has seen a particularly hard winter for snow and ice, and we've had complaints from the public. I think we'll probably all have had complaints from the public in relation to safety, not least from our own employees. We wish to allay their fears as much as possible, and whilst we can't guarantee complete clearance from snow and ice each year, at least as additional help towards better safety. Our bin lorries have reported their difficulties on steep hills, even in Stornoway, on such streets as Nicholson Road, and probably much steeper ones elsewhere in everybody's ward, and by losing control of their vehicle. Our carers have had difficulties getting to their clients, and possibly not all successfully in some cases. It's vital that the emergency services have as much support and are able to get around. And this extra funding can at least improve the situation by the amount. There's no reason why later on in the year that money can't be put in, and that's what we do. And as the leader has said, that's what we do anyway, if required. But I believe that we should, in view of what happened this year, that we should actually put this money in now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. And I now turn to Councillor Arthur MacLeod in seconding the Council Leader. Councillor MacLeod.
Yes, thank you very much, Convener. I think that the sensible approach was adopted today at TNI, where we agreed that the current financial year spend on winter maintenance and current policies completed, we should agree to future budget provision for future years. I mean, I know what Mr. Mackenzie is saying. We always get challenges and complaints about the fact we're not gritting enough. We grit according to the policy, and we can't allocate a specific amount because we just don't know how long the winter's going to last, how much salt we're going to use, and the associated costs of running the winter maintenance program. It is a challenge. It always is going to be a challenge, and maybe because of global warming, we thought things would get better. They seem to be getting worse. I think our current policy is long in need of an overhaul. And I think the appropriate time is, once the winter is over, hopefully very soon, that we sit down and rationalise how we're going to look ahead and devise a policy that is fit for purpose. But there never will be enough money in the budget for this, because we just can't see into the future. So I think the sensible way ahead is the way that's been agreed at TNI this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. I think you're in a bit of bother because Councillor Mackay run down the corridor and he's going round to your house after you promoting me to council leader. So I'm sure you can work that out between you. Can I turn now to Councillor John Mitchell to second Councillor Mackenzie?
Thank you, Convener. Again, fairly brief, not much to add to Councillor Mackenzie's fairly articulate plea. My inbox, as I'm sure like many councillors, have been inundated of late, and I would like to focus in on the carers, who I'm sure, as many people would agree, are the very committed and precious sector of our workforce, who often have to make, especially in difficult road conditions, have to make the unenviable choice as to whether they compromise their own safety or do they compromise the vulnerable people whose care and health is very much in their hands. I mean, we talk glibly about a 250,000 overspend, possibly rising to 600 to 700. I'm a bit perplexed that the leader saying, well, will we need it? I mean, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, was that on the 8th of February of this year, there was an overspend of 250, anticipated to rise to 750. I think Robert earlier today said that because of the warm conditions of late might be reduced to 650 to 700. I think these figures are totally unsustainable. And if we get an opportunity to address that, albeit a small gesture, I think it's something that we should do. And I think the community at large, the carers in particular, would view that very, very favourably. So I would commend the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mitchell. Can I invite any member who wishes to contribute to raise their hands? Councillor Colin McMillan. I'm not sure it's a good thing for me to ask you to raise your hand because it looks as if it's coming out of the screen into the room here, Colin.
Oh, apologies. It's one of the problems of small devices and big paws.
Thank you.
I did wonder. Thank you for the opportunity. I did wonder at the council leader's logic. And as somebody who likes to do simple sums, we set the budget just now, and yet we won't have the full sum of the cost of winter maintenance until probably the 3rd or the 4th week in April, when we have, I don't know what you call it, in Cahan in the One. It's the blizzard of the lambs. And we always seem to get blizzards at that time of year. We must have had it always. And despite global warming, as the Councillor MacLeod of Point said, I've bought palm trees and bird of paradise flowers on a number of occasions, or the seeds of, but they are still unused. I'm still waiting for global warming. So if we can provision a budget just now, even a modest amount of 250,000, it means that come May or June or July, when we look at next year's budget, which is actually this year's budget, 21-22, it'll be 250,000 less to find, and I can only commend that as a small step rather than some sort of slippery surface, if you could excuse the pun, and that we provision the budget properly and we look at it now, not when the winter gritting is done, but as on the basis of previous years, because in 3 years that I've been involved in budgets, in every year we've had an overspend in winter maintenance. Now, if we get it to policy, it means that we're not funding the service properly. And irrespective of the severity of the winter, every year there seems to be between 500,000 and 600,000 overspend in winter gritting. So this relatively modest additional 250,000 from balances will be used. If it isn't used, then it can always come back to balances. But certainly to provision the budget properly is, in my view, a good sense and something to be recommended, and I would commend this amendment to the councillors. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Councillor McMillan. Councillor John Orman MacLeod.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, and thanks for letting me speak. I've got to agree with quite a bit of what Ray and John Mitchell were saying about the carers. I'm actually married to a carer, and I do know the difficulties they have early morning. It's mainly in the weekends, the Sunday. Obviously, we don't grit till certain time, 8 o'clock. Now, I've actually had to go out myself a couple of times, 6 in the morning on Sunday morning, just to check the roads to see if it was safe for the carer to go to work. So I hope this 250k, if it goes through, will help towards and have a wee thing, a thought for the carers who have to go out there at 6 in the morning when there's no grit or no treatment at all on the roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Councillor Angus McCormack, followed by Councillor Kenny John MacLeod and Councillor Eilean MacLeod. Councillor Angus McCormack. And Councillor MacLeod, can you take your hand down, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Convener. I think what Councillor John N. MacLeod was talking about there was actually a change in policy rather than a funding matter. And certainly there is absolutely no reason at all why we shouldn't discuss that at some point in the near future, but that's usually best done after we've seen the winter through, and we can then reflect on what has happened and what we should do in the future. There is a principle here which troubles me, and the principle is that of delving into balances to attempt to solve problems. I don't think that is a good idea. Robert Emmett has stressed over and over again how important it is that we maintain our balances. And this particular budget has been created based on a significant amount of balance has been held. And the reason that we want to hold on to them, of course, is because we just have no idea what the future holds for us. We are certainly going to have another year of COVID-related issues, and we have no idea what other particular problems might come our way. So I am just, in principle, opposed to the idea of stealing money from balances. I don't think we should do that. I think we should take the advice of our financial advisors in this matter. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Councillor McCormack. Councillor Kenny John MacLeod.
Thank you, Convener. I just go back to the considerations at the TNI member officer working group when the original proposal was to reduce the winter gritting budget, and the strong recommendation from the member of the working group was that should not be done, and that is not possible if we're to live with the policy that we have. I think there was an undertaking that we look again at the policy, but the point is that we don't stop gritting when we reach the budget cap, whatever budget is set for it. We continue budgeting in terms of we continue gritting in terms of the policy. So by putting money in doesn't change how much gritting is done. If members want to review the policy, and over the past number of weeks, there's been a lot of expressions of interest in increasing our gritting in certain areas. I mean, that's going to require substantially more money to do it. And I know that we are going to be looking at how we deliver the service as part of the review that's ongoing. I think to put money into and I think the amendment is to put money into the 2021 budget, which is this year that we're just coming to an end at the moment. And that, I mean, the gritting is being paid for. We haven't stopped when we reach the cap, and that will continue, and that will be funded. We can't not pay for the gritting, so it's going to be paid for. So, but to suggest we move money at the moment without knowing what the exact position is, and like colleague Councillor McMillan says, Schnack na cash is still to come. The Easter snows may still hit us, and we could be facing quite a more substantial budget overspend yet. I think it would be entirely premature to allocate money and set money against the budget just now. And the key point is we're not stopping gritting. The gritting continues in terms of the policy. So I think it would be an error to just allocate a sum of money just now. If we're sticking with the policy until we change it, and perhaps we should change it, but at the moment it makes no sense at all to allocate monies before we know where we are with the year-end outturn.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Councillor Ian M. MacLeod, followed by Councillor Cal MacLean and Councillor Norman MacDonald. Councillor Ian M. MacLeod.
Thank you, Convener. I think the last two have actually covered most of what I was going to say. I do appreciate where Councillor Norman MacLeod is coming from. We get quite a lot of complaints from carers, etc. But throwing another 250k in doesn't change the gritting policy. That's another matter entirely. So unless I'm reading this wrong or understanding this wrong, we continue gritting to policy regardless what the weather does over the next month or 6 weeks. So 250k is not going to cover it. We know that. We know we're predicting 750k. So from that point of view, I don't see the point of the amendment. That's all.
Thank you very much, Councillor MacLeod. Can I ask both yourself and Councillor Kenny John MacLeod to lower your hands, and I'll ask Councillor Cal MacLean to come in.
Thank you, conveners. Can I say that it's what I would call a prudent exercise in the amendment that is going forward here, as already as said eloquently by both Ray Mackenzie and John Mitchell. Just a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we were £250,000 short. So surely to goodness, it's prudent for us to look at making security of the fact that we would have another 250,000 from balances. Now, I heard an argument already this afternoon about the fact that we should maintain balances, but we should maintain safety above balances. And that's what our exercise is. We talked about carers and those who have to go out. These are the ones. And if there is the security of £250,000 extra within it from balances, surely it's a prudent exercise for this amendment. Commend this amendment to councillors this afternoon.
Thank you, Councillor MacLean. Councillor Norman MacDonald.
Thanks, Chair. There has never been an issue with safety. We have gritted to policy and we have spent what needs to be spent every single year according to our own approved policy. And I've debated long and hard and argued long and hard about the policy. I've had it explained to me chapter and verse. And the only amendment to policy that I can see folk are possibly looking to recommend here would involve an increase in the cost to the Comhairle, either by changing the policy, and I can't see it being changed to the detriment of the current gritting policy. In other words, it would only be either improved or significantly more expensive to implement. I think it's been said before that we are the envy of some councils, especially the likes of Highland Council, Aberdeenshire, etc., for our gritting policy. You know, it might not be to everybody's taste, but it's as good as there is, certainly in the north of Scotland. I think we can confidently say that. Every year, we never know, and I'd take Callum Macmillan's point that, you know, it does seem to appear that we've overspent in several of the past few years. But I'm sure there are several years where we have underspent, and it may not balance itself out, but we always fund later on. We never know what we're going to have to find to spend, and we always do find the money to spend. So, you know, the changing of the policy is one thing. We never compromise safety. We've never compromised safety. And I understand we have moves afoot to maximise the benefit we get from the current spend that we have, which are under investigation just now, which may need a change to the way we implement the gritting policy and maybe accrue significant savings so we can grit more for the same amount of money. But as for changing the policy, I don't think that's on the cards unless we have a debate about it at a future time. And I thoroughly recommend the motion at the moment.
Thank you very much, Councillor MacDonald. Are there any other hands coming up? Councillor MacDonald, your hand is still up.
Apologies.
Okay, no more hands. So again, I think we turn to the summing up, and that will be Councillor Ray Mackenzie for the amendment and the Council Leader Roddy Mackay for the motion. So Councillor Mackenzie, summing up, please.
Thank you, thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of points that were raised there. This is for next winter and next year's budget. I think Kenny John mentioned 2021, 2020 to 2021, as opposed to 2021-22. So I'm not quite sure if I picked him up correctly there, but it is towards next year's budget. We're not changing the policy, but adding to it. It does need a review, there's no doubt about it, but that's not what we're talking about here just now. The fact is that if you consider this sum, and I agree with the people that have mentioned that we have to spend the money, if we're short on the money at the time. But this is putting extra money into the winter maintenance budget, and this is the time to do it. You can just take the circumstances at the time, and that's that's what we're adding to. But I would point out one or two things that Mr. Emmett says the settlement is better, and that's true. We've got extra COVID money coming from Scottish Government, extra money coming for the Burner Bridge, the UK spending review in March. We're not going to get less money. They're not going to take money away from us. And, as a consequence of that, there'll be extra money coming from the Scottish Government. So, we're going to be in a better position. And I think that this 250,000 is the least we can do at this stage. And then tackle the budget for winter maintenance when the time comes next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Council Leader, Councillor Roddy Mackay, summing up.
Yeah, I would still maintain that what we're proposing actually is a review of this year's spend on winter maintenance and the current policy. And when that's completed, then the T&I committee will agree budget provision. Why on earth would we want to throw money at something until we find out about the current year's provision and the policy? I want to set a few things straight here. We talk about bin drivers and we talk about emergency vehicles and we talk about carers. If we put 250,000 towards the current policy, that makes no difference. There will not be more gritting for carers or more gritting for emergency services or more gritting for bin lorries. That won't happen. The policy is the policy. So I just want to clear up that particular myth. I heard Councillor McLean saying, do we maintain safety or maintain balances? But as Councillor Norrie MacDonald pointed out, we grit to policy. So there is no question of us compromising safety. We still grit to policy and we still do what we're supposed to do under policy. Now, if you want to look at the policy, which I believe people want to look at this year, and then amend things and add extra gritting for different times of the day or different places, that's a different matter. But to put more money simply towards the current policy will not make any difference to those people you've mentioned. And one other thing on that is, this won't mean, as well as this not changing the policy, it won't make any difference to the issues that Ray has raised there about emergencies or carers. And we still are clear that no member of our staff is ever expected to compromise on safety. Now, if we collect all the anecdotal feedback we've had, and there's been some comments here, I heard comments earlier on about a bin lorry going to a particular place. 8 years ago, I was in this council and the bus drivers were asking should they go out, and it was made clear that it's their responsibility to judge. So there is no merit whatsoever at the minute in putting 250 of balances there. We will fund the grouting as we need to do it to policy going forward. What we need to do is have a look at the policy and then see if we want to change the allocation towards it for next winter. So at the minute, I think what's in their own motion that came through T&I committee, that when the review is completed, then we look at the funding. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Can we now ask Derek Mackay to take a roll call?
So it's the motion in the name of the leader, seconded by Councillor Alison MacLeod, and the amendment in the name of Councillor Ray Mackenzie, seconded by Councillor John G. Mitchell. Convener, motion. Leader.
Motion, sorry.
Colin McMillan.
Amendment.
Ian Archie McNeil.
Motion.
Donald Manford.
Amendment.
Paul Francis Steele.
Motion.
Roddy Mackay.
Motion.
Ian Robertson. Sorry, Ian MacLeod.
Motion.
Ian Robertson.
Motion.
Yeah. Grant Fulton.
Amendment.
Paul Finnegan.
Motion.
John G. Mitchell.
Amendment.
Ronald Fraser.
Amendment.
Angus Morrison.
Motion.
Norrie MacDonald.
Motion.
Alistair MacLeod.
Motion.
Finlay M. Stewart.
Motion.
Keith Dodson.
Motion.
Ray Mackenzie.
Definitely amendment.
Angus McCormack.
Motion.
Charlie Nicholson.
Amendment.
Ian M. Macaulay.
Motion.
Neil Mackay.
Motion.
Gordon Murray.
Amendment.
Donald F. Crichton.
Motion.
Johnny McKeever.
Amendment.
Colin McLean.
Amendment.
John Mackay.
Motion.
John N. MacLeod.
Amendment.
Kenneth MacLeod.
Amendment.
And Kenny John MacLeod.
Motion.
19, 12. That's 19 for the motion, 12 for the amendment.
So the motion is carried. Can we move on to the next amendment? And that is proposed by Councillor Gordon Murray, seconded by Councillor Calvin McMillan. And Councillor Murray, if you'd like to read out the amendment.
Thank you, Convener. Good afternoon, Mr. Convener. Thank you very much. Firstly, the SNP Scottish Government is providing special funding for the replacement Burner Bridge, and it is therefore proposed that any of the 450,000 of funding previously allocated by the Comhairle for replacing the Burner Bridge, but no longer required due to the special funding, be reallocated on a ring-fenced basis to surface dressing of unadopted roads, with this being allocated on a 60-40 split, Lewis and Harris 60, Lewis and Barra 40. Secondly, to meet the undisputed need for school children to participate in outdoor exercises and sports activities all year round, and to provide a much needed community resource, the Council provide an all-weather pitch at Stornoway Primary at a cost of 350,000 to be financed by a mainland placement underspend of 100,000, and should the mainland placement underspend not be realised, that 100,000 or part thereof be funded from balances, and b saving on loan charges of 250,000. Thirdly, to provide a dental chair in Tai Crea Ula Nerve to make a ring-fenced contribution to the IJB specifically for the TCUN dental facility within the surgery space at TCUN to establish local provision of dental care, to embed dental provision within the care home at the Health and Wellbeing Hub in Daliborough, ring-fenced provision to IJB of £50,000 to be financed by allocation of savings on loan charges. Such funding only to be available for this purpose and otherwise reverting to the COLA. Fourthly, to meet the vital need to provide a long-stated aim of the Council to link all of the Western Isles for all those living and working in the Western Isles, but the COLA reinstate the concessionary fares in the Sound of Barra and Sound of Harris crossings at a cost of £10,000, financed by allocation of savings on loan charges. And fifthly and finally, to support abattoirs in Euston Barra to assist quality assured production of local supply into the food chain to facilitate producers in Euston Barra having a croft to customer product, provision of 40,000 financed by allocation of savings on loan charges.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Can I ask Councillor Macmillan if you're happy to second that?
Thank you, Convener. Yes, I am.
Thank you.
I second that amendment.
Can I turn to the Council Leader, Councillor Roddy Mackay? Are you happy to accept that amendment?
No, I'm perfectly happy with the recommendations we have in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I then open it up for debate again? And again, it's Councillor Roddy Mackay first, then Councillor Murray, and then Councillor MacLeod, followed by Councillor Macmillan. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you very much, Convener. I'm surprised that Councillor Murray and Councillor Macmillan are continuing with these amendments. I believe the solutions and the way that we've addressed these issues within the reports, committee reports today, which were given a good hearing, I think are more satisfactory and therefore more appropriate that we follow them. If I run through them very quickly, I don't want members to get tired of this. The first item, we've already, I think, gone through that in the sense that I think we've agreed that the recommendation that we look at any surplus balances applied to roads, bridges and causeways is a much more sensible thing to do once we find out what funding is available. The second thing, in terms of the Stornoway Primary, I think the recommendation that we've made through education is really concrete. I'm very enthusiastic about it, and I think all members have shown that, and we've said this just to remind you that the Council investigate the detailed cost and funding options for a June meeting of an all-weather pitch at Stornoway Primary School with a view to securing finance and a construction start this financial year, and that's what we're committed to. It hasn't got any of the uncertainty that there is in the recommendation here, which is a cost that we haven't yet established, 350, maybe more, maybe less, and is also contingent about different ways of getting money from savings on loan charges, or indeed mainland placelands underspend, which is not a common thing. So I believe that what we've put through education, and which the Chair of Education is committed to, and which members were happy with, is the way we should go. In terms of the dental chair, number 3, I have no comment whatsoever to make on that. I don't think we have much of a locus there, and I think that ship has sailed. Number 4, to meet the vital need again, I'm perfectly happy to have a look at that instead of just saying let's do it. Why don't we have a quick report in March regarding the impacts, costs and benefits of the concessionary fares, and then take a decision. Perfectly sensible, the right order for things. And lastly, the supporting abattoirs, I think, just to remind you what came through Sustainable Development today, a report we brought back to committee on the future use and potential development of abattoirs throughout the authority, which will include potential production opportunities and indicative costs and benefits. Reference to be made to the food and drink theme in the Islands deal and the local production aspirations in our post-COVID economic recovery document. And just on that, I might just say as well, that might take us to a position where we get match funding, we might get support through the Eilean deal. Whatever it does, it will give us a concrete review, and it might not be 40,000, it might be 100,000, it might be 20,000 that we need to start that process off. So I think the recommendations that we have adequately and improve on what we have in front of us, so I would just continue to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Councillor Gordon-Murray.
Thank you, Convener. Firstly, I would like to sincerely thank Senior Accountant Norman MacDonald, Robert Emmett, Malcolm Barr and Derek Mackay for their assistance in drafting this amendment. Lots of emails have been exchanged and I thank them for giving up their time so freely. I'd also like to thank the Scottish Government for increasing the funding to the Comhairle. So introducing this amendment, I would firstly like to address the issue of road maintenance. Unadopted roads is a much neglected part of our infrastructure. I have seen in the minutes of many a community council spanning our islands the issue of road maintenance and unadopted roads being raised time and time again. This amendment would address these issues and thus help meet the aspirations of communities across all of our islands. There is a clear need here identified by many of the people we represent, and we should help them by meeting this need today. We have all now been briefed to the fact that Stornoway Primary is the third biggest primary school in Scotland. However, the facilities for such a size of school fall way short of the standards I'm certain we would all wish to provide. This has been acknowledged by many members of the council on several occasions over a number of years. So many of our children have gone through primary year upon year, playing on sloping, unmarked tarmac in muddy patches of ground, resulting in children sitting in wet, dirty clothes during lessons. This is not acceptable anymore. This money has been identified. Now let us today act and allow our children at Stornoway Primary to play on a decent surface and participate in organised sports. Children who haven't had it easy over the last few months, children who deserve a chance to play outside and realise all the benefits that sport and play can offer them. With regards to the dental chair, a very important, hugely important issue in the communities of Uist. The communities in Uist on this issue, I believe, have been severely let down. I'm sure every member here would like to show their support for the communities in Uist who have identified a reasonable need that they should have the dental provision they deserve. Even from Stornoway, I recognise that. Surely we want to avoid getting bogged down in a bureaucratic argument about budget process. Again, I say to you members, we have the opportunity to act positively today, and we should seize that opportunity. In terms of abattoirs, I'd like to address the proposal to support the abattoirs in Uist and Barra. We all know that there will be challenges ahead. We need resilience in the crofting communities to enable them to provide the local produce our communities need safely and efficiently. Given all the uncertainty surrounding Brexit, our crofters will want us to show we understand the difficulties they could face and take the necessary action to support them. This is our chance to reassure our crofting communities in Uist and Barra that we are listening to them. Now, I don't want to get involved today in arguments of the process about the setting of the budget. I feel that demeans the debate. What we all know is that the council is setting its budget for the next financial year. Every member must be allowed to have a say today. All those who put us here expect it. To reduce this to a bureaucratic argument serves no purpose other than to avoid debate. Yesterday, on Monday...
30 seconds, Councillor Murray.
Thank you. Yesterday on Monday, the council leader said that there was virtue in this amendment, and I couldn't agree more. I agree with him wholeheartedly. That's why I'm moving this amendment, and I urge you members to support this amendment. Let's do the right thing by our communities. They are waiting to hear from us. That's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Can I turn now to Councillor Alistair MacLeod to second the council leader, Roddy Mackay?
Thank you, the convener. Thank you, convener. Get it right second time round. I'm not going to go through bit by bit Councillor Murray's amendment. What I'm going to focus on is that the recommendations are adequate. We face difficult challenges. We have done for a long time. As Robert is on his second last day with us, you know, his valuable input and advice from him and his team have been invaluable for us over the last few years. By prudent and judicious use of financial sources, we are in a reasonably good place compared to many councils in Scotland. However, as Robert has quite rightly stressed in the course of the budget debates and discussions, there are imponderables and uncertainties facing us in several areas of the overall financial equation. And this is not the time to relax our sensible and prudent approach to managing council finances. Members have quite rightly drawn attention to areas of community concerns in recent days, and I'm delighted that the leader has responded in a positive and logical way with a series of budgetary amendments which were agreed today. They are sensible and logical ways to address the issues that we have. And there will always be issues. It doesn't matter which council you're on, which party you support, there will always be issues and challenges facing us, and we have to be sensible in approaching them. I would say we're still in a sea of financial uncertainty regarding the Scottish Government budget and also the Westminster Government budget. So this is the time to call canny and support the leader's steady hand on the council's financial tiller. I support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Can I ask Councillor Cal Macmillan to speak in support of Councillor Murray?
Thank you, convener. My approach in this is that we have to look at the impression that we give globally to the people that we represent. And the further that the White House is from us, the more we come across unadopted roads, and how we address the fact that houses are now being built on these roads, and communities that have access to transportation and road access are ones that have the chance to thrive. Where that is removed or not available, there is always a difficulty. And if we are going to represent people and say hand in heart that we want to support people living in rural areas, then unadopted roads is a first step to doing that. And irrespective of the budget that comes back, we have to look at the policy. And if we can put a certain amount of money to that, we can say to people, we might not be able to do it this year, but certainly there is a policy that we will support people in rural and from the White House disparate areas, irrespective of where you are and which island. And when you look at islands, the concessionary fares is a very modest amount of money, which helps people meet families who are both sides of the water. People talk about the folk in Cape Breton as being on the far side of the water, but it's the same in Uist, Barra, and Harris. These are communities that are both sides of the water, and the more we can help people communicate and see their families, the better it is, irrespective of current circumstances, and that will end. So the other, oh, here's a horn. He was hearing me talking, apologies. Third thing, He doesn't understand talking to cameras. Apologies. He's very clever, though.
Put him on.
That's a sensible option.
Oh, very good.
Instead.
Thanks for that, Colin. We lost you. Are you there, Colin?
That dog's smarter than we thought.
Are you there, Colin? Yes, Colin.
Hello, convener. Good afternoon. I'll continue. My dog has wandered off.
You're not going to get any more minutes, though. Carry on.
Thank you.
Lost you again.
Am I there? All right,
That's you now.
The issue that we have with the dental chair is similarly that we are embedding stuff in the community, and that's not something that I have devised. That's a Scottish Government aspiration as well. And although it's a Scottish Government IJB run facility, it is owned by the council. And one of the things that they say in the ageing population part of the thing put forward by Shona Robeson is that we face particular challenges in ensuring that residents of care homes also continue to receive regular, effective dental care. And that's something that we can do in Dallyborough rather than have people going to Ballyvanny, which is nearly 40 miles distance. And that's something that we can do as a community. Now, looking at Stornoway Primary, the former chair of education for a long time liked to say no about taking reports to committee about Stornoway Primary and the bad weather play area or even good weather play area. And I would now hope that he is like the man from Del Monte and that he would like to say yes, not just to a report, but to actually building it. And that is the thing that we should have as a policy, like the library vans. We aspire to doing it and we have set out how we're going to do it. The issue about taking it to a report and then we're going to look at funding. If we set out, this is the funding, then how do we do it? Then at least we are going somewhere and hopefully we'll be into the ground and excavating before the summer. And just by this time next year that they'll be there.
Another 30 seconds for the K9 intervention. I'll give you that.
Thank you, convener. And similarly with the abattoirs, we are setting out again a very modest amount of funding, which makes a huge amount of difference to the operationality and the functionality of these facilities in Barra and Uist. And it's something that I would commend to all councillors to support. Thank you, convener.
Thank you, Councillor McMillan. Can I now invite members to indicate if they wish to speak? Councillor Norman MacDonald.
Yeah, thanks, convener. I sometimes struggle with the amendments proposed by Gordon and the SNP group when they come in rafts of 6 or 7 at once, where we're realising that an amendment needs to be adopted in its entirety. They put several things together, some of which I could certainly support in its entirety. I certainly couldn't. And I find myself in this position again, which is why yesterday we brought up the subject of Stornoway Primary, and we fought so hard to get it on the papers. So, you know, we've addressed several of the issues in Gordon's amendment, I believe, or there have been discussions about them at other committees. And it was pointed out that lumping together so many different strands to an amendment makes it very difficult for any of it to get through. You know, there are certainly workable bits within it. But again, and I find myself in the position I was in this time last year, in rebutting the vast array of amendments that came from Gordon and the SNP group, where our budgets would have been decimated. And I think Robert Emmett has already pointed out in his statements today that if it wasn't for the prudent use of budgets, we would not be in the position we're in today, able to deal with the economic situation and the crisis we find ourselves in. Now, if we'd adopted the amendments this time last year, we would have dispersed most of these budgets and be left sitting with a penniless account, and it's only prudency that's left us here. So I would urge the SNP group and Gordon, if they're going to produce amendments, stick one in each and make us vote on individual amendments, that some of which could be possibly carried. Again, I will be supporting the motion here because in its entirety, this amendment doesn't work for me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Paul Steele, followed by Councillor Keith Dodson.
Thank you, Convener. Just on the Stornoway primary issue, I think the action taken at the Education Committee earlier is going to move this on quicker than this amendment, because we're going to come back with the costs and financing options. So I believe that's the right way to do it. And just to clarify one point, as we mentioned a few times about Stornoway primary being the third largest in Scotland, I'm not sure where that came from. I asked, and apparently there are 180 schools larger, and including 4 with pupils, over 800 pupils in it. So just to clarify that. In relation to the dental amendment, again, this was brought up last year and I had quite a lot to say last year, so I'm going to repeat myself, I'm afraid. And that is that in February 2018, I put forward the amendment which went to the IGB, and we all know went 4-4, and then the decision became policy to centralise it. So in 2018-19, the SNP brought forward a budget amendment asking for 500,000 to be made available for use in Barbados dental services, use in Comhairle, sorry. Then, I mean, that sits with NHS Western Isles, not the IGB. So really, we would have been giving money to the health board to do up the hospital, which would have been exactly the opposite of what the US community wanted. 1920, another amendment came forward, and that was for 80,000. Again, to win the Secretary, but with the caveat that it wouldn't just go on any dental services, but specifically for Dalabra, which was, slightly better. Now again, today we're seeing an amendment for 50,000. So the figures are changing all the time. I mean, I asked for a £10,000 feasibility study to be included, and it wasn't accepted. So I'm not sure where these figures are coming from. And again, last year, I mentioned that I hope the amendment wasn't just to embarrass our colleagues, myself and my colleagues, into supporting an amendment. I mean, we're fully in favour of a dental chair being in Tacken, and unfortunately that requires policy to be changed at the IGB, and it's not really within the remit of the Corrie. And I understand what Callum's saying about, if we do it, it puts pressure on, but the money being suggested, it's not being requested by the IGB. They can't spend it, and it's an NHS capital project, even though it would be in a Corrie building. So lots of other factors behind that, but yeah, I thank them for supporting and raising the subject of dental, and I intend to do a bit more at the IGB myself on it. So I'm looking forward to their support and contacting government to help get things moving there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Councillor Keith Dodson, followed by Councillor Johnny McKeever and Councillor Finlay Stewart thereafter. Councillor Dodson.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. First, I'd like to I welcome the recommendation of the go ahead with the Stornoway Primary all-weather service pitch in the next financial year. My problem with the other amendments is that we're being inundated with figures on savings, etc., etc. Apart from the fact that the corner is losing money elsewhere. I mean, when you think about the sports centre, we're losing nearly £750,000 there, etc., etc. But I do feel the other amendments are coming in a little bit too early. These could be looked at again in the latter part of the year, because we still haven't got a straight road ahead. I mean, who's to say that maybe in a couple of months' time, this COVID pandemic could come back and hit us again, and we need extra funding, etc., somewhere else to help us through the pandemic. Until we get a clear road ahead, then we can look at these other amendments again. But I'm glad that through the leader, etc., and the council, that we'll eventually go ahead with the Stornoway Primary all-weather service pitch. Thank you.
Councillor Dodson, Councillor McKeever.
Thank you, Convener. My concern here is about reports coming back to committees. We've been seeing this for many years now, and Norman mentioned things about lumping things together. Well, I'll lump a few things together as well. The library ones were mentioned earlier, the velocity impactor, the salt barns, the East Ford Causeway. All these things have been promised and promised and promised time and time again, and they were always thrown into the wrong grass. Some of them still haven't come. I hope that you support this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor McKeever, can I ask yourself and Councillor Dodson to lower your hands? Councillor Finlish, you're next.
Thank you, Convener. I'll be pretty brief. I just want to agree with Councillor Norrie MacDonald, and with all these different points coming into one amendment. I actually spoke to Gordon about it this week already. There are some of these points that I do agree with, but I can't agree with everything. And there's we've got a figure here of 350,000 for this MUGA or whatever it's about the Stornoway Primary. And Gordon told me that he got that off someone who obviously is involved in this kind of thing. And this is the price they had for building one before. Well, I mean, you could build one of these things. You could build two of them a mile apart, and there would be different prices. It's about the groundwork. So we need a firm price. We need to go ahead with this, knowing what we're doing and knowing exactly what we're spending. I'm not saying that we don't do, if we find out it's going to be $500,000, we don't do it. I want it done like everyone else wants it done. But I don't see the point of putting figures onto this when we don't really know what it's going to cost. So, that's one of the reasons that I won't be supporting this amendment. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Ray Mackenzie, followed by Councillor Manford, and then Councillor Charlie Nicholson. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I feel that it's reducing the effectiveness by saying we'll have a report. We know historically that's always been the way that things have gone for reports, and things have never happened. And that's in at least 3 of these cases. Basically, that's what's happening. It's going to go back for a report, and we've no guarantee that it's ever going to happen. And people have said all night and all day how supportive they are of the Stornoway Primary all-weather pitch, and it sounds to me that it's 100%. But I mean, once again, we're delaying it. How many times have we brought a report on this? I'd be very happy to see it somehow happening before I leave the council. And I mean, it's been at the forefront for the last 8 years, and nothing's happened. And there's no guarantee unless we do something about it. And agree with this amendment, then I don't think that it's going to happen very quickly in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Donald Munford.
Thank you, Convener. The questions have been being asked about why they are all together, why now, etc. It is now because there is a legal requirement to set the budget. It'll come once a year, every year at this time. This is when every councillor has the right, the duty to vote on the budget. That's why it is not right to simply accept what is presented, in my opinion, and not present your view. All of the amendments were written up and presented. They have to have finance against them, or they're not a competent amendment. That's why it's done this way. They were all written prior to anything coming through at committees on them. It is highly, highly unusual. In fact, I can't recall when the budget setting has discussed going out by each committee to have reports, simply because they've been raised in amendments. By the way, I commend that. It's wonderful, but it's absolutely clear that it's presenting the amendments that have focused the mind. Now, if I'll the abattoirs, absolutely, the Stornoway one has been addressed through the discussions about it at committee. Again, it's the Alliance were good enough to put it forward as an amendment. Euston Borough requires different outcomes, requires different ways to address it. Prior to these amendments, they didn't know whether they were being thrown to the wolves, cut free. At least after today's over, before today, they certainly feared they were. Now, it is being addressed. I'm going to now jump to the dental chair. And the reference at the beginning from yourself, Roddy, was that we don't have a locus in this. Yes, we do, very much. The acronym OHIP is not an Outer Hebrides Improvement Plan. It's Scotland's own health improvement plan.
You've got 20 seconds left, Councillor Manford.
Right. It is very clear that in care homes, there is a requirement for us to meet these dental requirements. And this started in 2016. It wasn't expected to be done overnight. A chair in those care homes allows, and it's very clear in the plan. I think we should take the time to read the plan, because clearly, I don't have the time here to go through it, but we have a duty.
Thank you, Councillor Manford. Thank you for that. Councillor Charlie Nicholson, followed by Councillor John Orman MacLeod. And Councillor MacDonald, Councillor Norrie MacDonald, I'm afraid you've already spoken as part of this debate, so we can't take that any further. So Councillor Nicholson and Councillor John Orman MacLeod.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you for allowing me the option to come in on this. As most members would probably realise, I'll be focusing in on the Stornoway Primary all-weather, though the other ones do help to improve our communities and help our communities in so many ways, and I back that so much. I welcome today the report to the Education and Children's Services Committee and the assurances given by the Director, Chair and the Leader. But I have a little hiccup. That is of the finance. That still concerns me. And tonight, Convener, we have a chance to give a commitment of 350,000 towards this project. And members have been saying we don't know the costs. Well, this will allow it to be taken forward. This will be an allocation towards the costs, and it would encourage the parents, the pupils, the staff and the community of Stornoway for this long-awaited all-weather pitch, which would become a reality if we back these amendments that are before us. It's been a major challenge over the years. I mean, when I started, I had dark hair. Now I've got grey hair and hardly any hair at the top as such. It's taken so long. I've had so many promises, so many encouragements for this to happen, to improve the facilities. The school, the Stornoway Primary, I'm so proud of it. Like many other members, they're proud of their schools. I'm proud of the staff. I'm proud of the pupils. I'm proud of the parents. I'm proud of the education that comes out of Stornoway Primary. I am not proud of the environment of the Stornoway Primary. Gentlemen, tonight we have the opportunity to put money there to support what the leader has put forward, has been backed by the Chair of Education and backed by the Director to bring a report forward. That is my concern, and I want to back this fully, and I am asking members tonight to make a difference. I've got one or two comments here from one or two parents. I've had lots of them, texts and other stuff and that. It's a sad state of affairs when in 2021 we're giving our children not the opportunity for fitness and that. Gentlemen, I am seeking and pleading with you tonight to make a difference, to provide 350,000 to the project and allow Education and Children's Services to take it forward. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Councillor John Orman MacLeod, then Councillor Kenny John MacLeod and Councillor McCormack. Councillor John Orman MacLeod.
Thank you, Convener. Just want to say a couple of things regarding the amendment. I know there's 5 different items. With regards to Stornoway Primary and the all-weather pitch, well, to be honest, if someone was to offer me or our ward 350,000 cash, as like just now, for an all-weather pitch, I'd be biting off the right hand, to be honest with you. With regards to unadopted roads, yes, our ward would definitely benefit from that, 60-40. I've had umpteen people asking, can we get something done to our roads unadopted? Sorry, there's no budget for it. Hasn't been in years, and yes, I would welcome that. The other one, down in Eust now, I'm guessing they've obviously done their work down there and they found out what the needs of the people are. I can't really comment on that, but I would support it knowing that obviously they've done their work to find out that it is required. Eust and Barra and the abattoirs, yes, I support the Lewis and Harris one. We should also support the Eust and Barra as a council. So all that. So to be honest, I'll be voting with the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson and Councillor John Orman take down their hands, and I'll ask Councillor Kenny John MacLeod to speak, followed by Councillor Lance McCormack.
Thank you, Convener. I'm just surprised that colleagues are persisting with this, with the Stornoway Primary. You're pushing out an open door. The leader has made it quite clear, and I didn't hear one person speaking against this. I think what colleagues want is just simply this to be properly evaluated and properly funded. And if it costs 500,000 to get this done, then let's work towards getting that 500,000 allocated. It makes no sense at all to preempt what the cost is going to be in advance of a detailed design on it. So I think, there's nobody spoke against this, and in fact the leader has given a categorical undertaking that he would like to see works beginning on this before the end of the next financial year. In regard to the unadopted roads, yeah, I sympathise as my colleague Councillor John Orman MacLeod, but the sad reality is that we're about £42 million deficit in our spending on our adopted roads. We are massively behind that, and that's what it would take to spend on the adopted roads to bring them up to a standard. So with a decreasing budget, I think it would be premature at this stage to take money out when even this winter we see already the additional damage that has been done to our adopted roads. And if I can just turn very briefly to the dentist situation in the Eust, as many colleagues know, I was not in favour of the IJB's direction of travel on this and voted accordingly. However, that is democracy, and that's how it was. What was the outcome. I continue to support my colleague Councillor Steele and have spoken up at the IJB in terms of the mitigation being introduced to assist the areas that have been reduced in service. And I don't know whether members know, but the Health Board actually have 2 dental chairs that they have ready to deploy to these areas. So they don't lack physically a dental chair to allocate to any area. They already have 2 that have not been unwrapped yet. So I think to make an allocation of money to the... I'll just wind it up at that. Really, I'm still persisting in supporting re-evaluation of the dental provision in Euston, particularly down in the Delabar area, and we'll continue to support colleagues on the IJB to further that.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Councillor Angus McCormack.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mary, yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. The buttons on my screen are not responding very well, unfortunately.
Okay.
I just want to talk rather in a general way about the amendment. Like many people, I'm not attracted to multiple amendments like this at all, because it's very distracting. And there is, you do feel that you can't really support everything that is there. Although everything in it is good, and of course I could myself, as could you and anybody, bring up 6 different things that I wanted to push in this kind of way. But I don't really see any merit in this kind of strategy at all. But what I really want to home in on is what I mentioned earlier, and that is the question of where finance is supposed to be coming from. I've heard people say money is available. Now, nobody has said that the money that's mentioned here is available, other than the movers of the motion. And for example, to suggest that you would remove a mainland placement underspend to spend on something else other than mainland placement, that shocks me. Mainland placement is possibly our most delicate budget of all, and it reports, as you know, to every series. We very seldom get any money back from mainland placements. And if we do, the best thing we can do with it is to keep it, because we know that sooner or later there will be a case comes along. And on average, cases have been costing £250,000. So that's not free money in my view at all. Nor are savings on loan charges free money. It is money that is available to go into balances and give due consideration to how best to expend it when it is necessary to do. It should not at all become part of the day-to-day spending of the Comhairle, as this is suggesting. I think we have to be very, very careful about how we expend our money. There's no way that we can go forward into this next year knowing how difficult it's going to be.
Councillor McCormack, 1 minute.
Having spent our balances. I'm just completely opposed to that idea.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor McCormack. Councillor MacLeod, you still got your hand up as well? Councillor Kenny John MacLeod, thank you.
Apologies, Convener.
That's okay. I'm not seeing any further hands coming up at this stage, so I'll close that debate down and I'll ask Councillor Gordon Murray to sum up for the amendment, followed by the Council Leader, Councillor Roddy Mackay. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Convener. I've heard the arguments in putting these decisions through the committees are causing unnecessary delays. I mean, why are we putting our communities through unnecessary delay? We can act today. We're supposed to act today. This is what our duty, this is what we've been elected for, to set budgets. We're asking members to support our crofting communities in Euston and Barra. Don't turn your back on them. I mean, we should support the communities in Euston and their dental provision as aspirations today. The leader has said that boat has sailed. That's what he believes. I don't believe that. If you think the boat has sailed on dental provision, vote with the leader. If you don't think the boat has sailed on dental provision, vote for the amendment. Why have children sitting in dirty, wet clothes any longer? We know that also the unadopted roads in the minutes of community council across the islands are a real concern, and no budget there. Let's put a budget there to help our communities. So we need to show that we're listening to people, to the people that have elected us. So I would urge to support our amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Roddy Mackay, Council Leader, summing up.
Yeah, just Thank you very much. Just very quickly, just listening to Mr. Murray there, first of all, he said that we're turning our backs on the people who used Bada. I think that my recommendation around the abattoir is actually wider than his, and it's looking for a review there and includes used Bada, and I think it will bring good outcomes for these particular things. I mean, if I speak to it again, just to remind you, we're getting a report back on the future use and potential development of abattoirs throughout the authority, which will include potential production opportunities and indicative costs and benefits. That's for used Bada and Stornoway. So what we actually have in the report is wider. In terms of the concessionary fares, we're just getting a quick report back in March to show the benefits, and it'd be good to get any economic impacts that Ian McKeever and his team can bring to us. In terms of the ship sailing, in terms of the dental facility I'm talking about, it has now moved into the remit of the IJB, and I'm very pleased that Paul Steele and Kenny John McLeod continue to make an impact there, and they're going to follow that up in there, and that's where it should happen. In terms of the Stornoway primary or weather pitch, I have actually, although we took on about reports, I have never actually seen a specific report on an all-weather pitch. I haven't seen one. I think if we see one very quickly and we get to work, I think my way is more certain. It's going to bring a result quicker, and we will get a facility that's fit for purpose. And I think that it's a much better option, and it is certainly not kicking into long grass. The assurances have been given, and I think that we should go with that. And I think that's the best way possible for the parents and pupils of Stornoway Primary, definitely. And lastly, just on the Bernera Bridge, again, the recommendation that I had was much wider in the sense that any surpluses go back to roads, bridges and causeways. And as we debated earlier, I know my colleagues have concerns over bridges across the island and causeways. As I said, we mentioned the Balshire one just recently. So it makes perfect sense that any surplus money be used in that context. So I would just say that the recommendations that are in these committee reports are perfectly sensible and give wider and potentially quicker solutions to the issues that have been raised in this particular debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. I'll now ask for Mr. Mackay to conduct a roll call vote.
The motion in the name of the leader, seconded by Councillor Alison MacLeod, and the amendment is in the name of the proposal, Councillor Gordon Murray, seconded by Councillor Colin McMillan. Convener?
Motion.
Leader?
Motion, sorry.
Colin McMillan?
Amendment.
Ian Archie McNeil?
Motion.
Donald Manford?
Amendment.
Paul Francis Steele?
Motion.
Rodney Mackay?
Motion.
Ian M. McLeod?
Motion.
Lucian Robertson?
Motion.
Grant Fulton?
Amendment.
Paul Finnegan?
Motion.
John G. Mitchell?
Amendment.
Ronald Fraser?
Amendment.
Angus Morrison?
Motion.
Norrie MacDonald?
Motion.
Alistair MacLeod?
Motion.
Sidney Stewart?
Motion.
Keith Dodson?
Motion.
Ray McKenzie?
Amendment.
Angus McCormack?
Motion.
Charlie Nicholson?
Amendment.
Ian M. Macaulay?
On the basis this is going to be quicker for Stornoway Primary, motion.
Neil Mackay?
Motion.
Gordon Murray?
Amendment.
Donald F. Crichton?
Motion.
John A. McKeever?
Amendment.
Colin McLean?
Amendment.
John Mackay?
Motion.
John N. MacLeod?
Amendment.
Kenneth MacLeod?
Amendment.
And Kenny John MacLeod.
Motion.
That's 19 for the motion, 12 for the amendment.
So it's 19 for the motion and 12 for the amendment, so the motion is carried. I don't want to keep people much longer, and I know that tributes have been given by most of the chairs to Robert Emmett, but I'd like to give my own view on that. And Robert has been a tremendous asset and for the Comhairle since he started. The one thing I also noticed was when he first came here, he looked like he was only about 15 years of age, and he had a tuft of hair on the front of his on his forehead. And the reality is he hasn't changed much since then. He still looks quite young, and that's despite the best efforts of many of the councillors, not just the ones who are currently on the council, but ones who have moved on elsewhere. And the other thing that I applaud Robert for is the amount of work he's done voluntarily, whether that be through the work he's done with the Scouts and through Stornoway Canoe Club, and supporting many other people in our community. So I think there's much more to Robert than just the finance, but he's also very forthright in his decision making, and very much right at the end of the day. And it is a sad loss to us as a council, as I'm sure other people have said. So thank you, Robert, for all the work that you've done over the years you've been with the council, and I hope everything goes well for yourself and the family in the future. So thanks very much, Robert.
Thank you, convener.
Agreed.
All the best, Rob.
All the best.
Motion.
I think, Robert, there's a horse for you outside. I thought there was a horse clumping down the road there. Can I then bring the meeting to a close? Thank you for your participation. And I do think that the discussions we've had, not just this evening, but over the last couple of days, have been something that should instead in the future. And the next scheduled meeting of the Comhairle will be on the 31st March 2021. Thank you all very much, and see you as long as you're still some distance away from home.
Thank you, convener.
Thank you, convener.
Thanks, convener.
Thanks, Douglas.